Okay then, I need to repurpose, or I would like to repurpose these bearings. SNE, they are grease packed and they're adjustable, or should we say they're locked onto the shaft and you can unlock them. There's some sort of, from memory, there's some sort of tapered lock on there. What I want to do is I've got to take these bearings off, but effectively that one has got to stay about there, and we'll have a pulley on the end. The gap between those has got to be increased, and I want to weld a piece of pipe on there that I'll act like a cam, yeah, or an eccentric, and this one wants to be further over here, and then that needs to be turned down to take a flywheel. So let's just have a look. It's a long time since I've had one of these apart. That's bound to be Imperial. There we go. Right. Well, that probably hasn't been undone for 40 years at least. And one, there we go. You can't beat having grease around threads to make sure they come undone. Having to put a little bit of force on that, but it's not too bad. Now I just need a hammer. There we go. Okay. Interesting. So there's a bit of wobble on there. Right. And there's the, so it's that there and that there. And that comes out. And that comes out. Now, I think, let's get a cloth. These are really good bearings for your amateur mechanic. Yeah, you see there's a C spanner slot there and there. Right, we need to wash this off. I'll get back to you in a minute. Okay, now if we have a look here, can you see that there? That's separate from that inner bearing race. And then if we look over here, you'll see this is a nut. There's a locking tab there and it threads onto that. So when you tighten this up, what it does is it pulls this cone through the bearing and locks it onto the shaft. Brilliant, eh? So you lift out the locking tab, undo that nut, and the bearing and the taper collar will come off the shaft. Amazing. And then you've got these really quite big industrial housings that will take a lot of grief, with a felt seal there and a felt seal there, and a big washer here that takes the thrust, and that washer goes on this side, not on the thread side, on the other side. Brilliant, eh? You just got to fight your way through all the grease, but it's the grease that's kept it good over all these years. This must have been picked up out the scrapyard 35 years ago, and he's been sat on the shelf awaiting inspiration because I like the look of these bearings, and I've got several other ones, and so now I can use it. And if you get these normal plumber blocks with just a sliding fit and a grub screw, a few years down the track you can't get them off the shaft. There's been a bit of corrosion in there. Even if you put a bit of grease and oil on there, a bit of corrosion, they won't shift. These will. So we'll move over to the outside leg vise and have a go at taking these apart. Right. Okay. Undo that locking tab, and you see, you know, you've got a bit of alignment wobble there, which is very handy. There, it wasn't that tight. So we'll just knock this end. Okay, so that's come apart. Yeah, threading it would pull the cone that way, so we need to right, we're up against the jaws of the vise there. Right, let's just see if we can get this to move. Right, it's moved on the shaft. Okay. Are we in shot? That's just a bit crusty there. Okay. So you can see, and there's just a bit that needs just cleaning up. But I've undone the bearing. Relatively easy. So I can undo this other side and then slide that off there. Then I can work on the shaft, and there's been no huge amounts of violence getting rid of this, so I'm just going to clean these shaft ends up and then remove these bearings. What's nicer than that, eh? It's brilliant, isn't it? Right, will that come off now? Yeah, it will. So there you go, there's the internal collar, which is obviously on a taper inside in the inner side of this bearing. And there's the lock nut and the locking washer, and it's a double row bearing with some wobble built in, and just there is the lock tab that holds that locking tab to the inner race. Let's put that nut on there again, and there we go. Brilliant, eh? So I'm just going to do this other one, then I can get to work on this shaft. So these are brilliant for your amateur mechanic, taking things apart, adjusting things, putting things back together. Comments, discussion, if you've dealt with these before, it'd be nice to hear from you. Otherwise, I'm just opening your eyes to, when you see this sort of thing, don't think, oh, I'll never get those off that shaft, because they'll come off relatively easily. Catch up with you soon, and cheers for now.